So I wanted to try something different for the Instagram post over the next little while. Typically with the posts, I just do something random that pops into my head. And the reality is there's no sort of cohesive pattern or train of thought that goes along with it. It's like a one-car train, you know, thing, thing, that's it. What I want to embark on now is something with a little bit more focus and something with a little bit of push to it. So we're going to call this two things. And it could be two questions, it could be two thoughts, it could be two points to consider. What I wanted to introduce it with is this. There is no way of getting around it. The pandemic is still here. I'm not wearing a mask, but then I'm by myself here. The reality is the pandemic has created a shift. And when things move, they inevitably either create space behind them. If you think about a boat traveling through the water, it creates a wake behind it. And in nature, when something moves, it generally leaves empty space behind. We see this in our everyday lives all the time. If you clean up a room and you put everything in order, picking up the stuff off the floor, putting stuff on shelves that maybe had been somewhere else, you're leaving behind empty space. How long before that space gets filled with something else? The reality is, I love this expression, nature abhors a vacuum, meaning if there is empty space, it will get filled. The pandemic created empty spaces in our lives. Spare time that we didn't have before when, we were busy in the routines of life. We had filled our moments and our days with what, was typical for us. The pandemic disrupted typical. And so what it created was space, time, energy, resources. So my two things this week is, what did you fill the empty space with? What sort of things occupied the time that maybe you had because other things were gone? What sort of things did your money go to that didn't go to the typical things? All of those kinds of expenditures were created and allowed because space opened up. And so then the other thing that I want to ask is, if you filled your space with something, what did it cost you? What did it cost you in time, money? And something we don't always think about is energy. Another thing we don't often think about is relational stress. If you're doing something different, what did that do to the people around you that were used to what you typically did? Did you care about the effect that it had on them? One of the things that I've been working on is a log cabin. Been pouring my energy into that. But what I noticed is that it not only takes up the time that is given towards the creation of it, it took up the space in my head when I had, say, spare time to think. I'd be thinking about, oh, how am I going to solve that problem? How am I going to fix that thing that didn't quite work out on the cabin as good as I thought it would? Do you see? Space gets created and it gets filled with something. What did we fill it with? And what did it cost us? Two things this week. Take care and talk to you soon.